Today, we are going to be talking about an African icon dead but still remain in our memories. The man who dreamed for a nation, the story of Nnamdi Azikiwe. Before Nigeria had independence, before the green and white flag flew freely in the sky, there was a boy, born in a small town, with big dreams in his heart. That boy became a voice. That voice became a leader. And that leader became a symbol of hope for millions. This is the story of Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, the man many call the father of modern Nigeria. A man who faced hardship, a man who fought with words, not weapons, a man who believed that black people could rise, unite, and lead themselves. He didn't start life as a president or hero. He started like any of us, with a name, a family, and a dream. Nnamdi Benjamin Azikiwe was born on November 16, 1904, in Zungeru, a small town in today's Niger State, Nigeria. At that time, Nigeria was still under British colonial rule. His father, Obed-Edom Azikiwe, worked as a clerk for the British government, and his mother, Rachel Chinwe Azikiwe, was a housewife and trader. Growing up in Zungeru, young Nnamdi saw how white colonial officers lived a better life than black Nigerians. They had better houses, better clothes, and more power. He began to ask himself, why are we treated like second class in our own land? His family was Igbo, but he grew up around many tribes, Hausa, Yoruba, Nupe. From a young age, he saw that Nigerians were many people with many languages and cultures, but he also saw that the British used this to divide them. As a child, Nnamdi loved to read. His father encouraged education. He was sent to different schools, first in Onitsha, where his family was from, and later in Lagos and Calabar. He learned quickly and had a sharp mind. But something happened that changed his life forever. When he was still a teenager, he witnessed a Nigerian man being slapped by a British officer, just for standing in the wrong place. Nnamdi never forgot that moment. He later said, "I felt like I was the one slapped. My blood boiled. That day, I made a promise. I would do everything I could so that no black man would be treated like that again." From that moment, his dream became clear: to free Nigeria from colonial rule. When Nnamdi was a young man, he knew that education was his weapon. He believed that if he wanted to fight for freedom, he had to first learn how the world worked. In 1925, with the support of his father, Nnamdi left Nigeria to study in the United States of America. He was just 21 years old, but his heart was full of determination. He arrived in America with little money. Life there was not easy. He worked many small jobs just to survive, washing dishes, cleaning floors, doing hard labor. But he never gave up. He knew why he was there: to learn, to grow, and to return home stronger. Nnamdi studied in several universities in the US, including Lincoln University and Howard University. He later earned degrees in political science and journalism. He was one of the first Nigerians to get a university degree from America. But while studying in America, something else happened. He saw racism. Black people in America were also treated as second-class citizens. It broke his heart, but it also opened his eyes. He began to connect the suffering of African Americans with the suffering of Africans back home. He read the writings of great black thinkers like Marcus Garvey, W.E.B. Du Bois, and Booker T. Washington. These men talked about black pride, African freedom, and the need for black people to stand tall. Nnamdi started writing articles in newspapers and speaking at events. He told anyone who would listen, "Africa must rise. We must not wait for anyone to free us. We must free ourselves." This is where his Pan-African dream was born, the idea that all Africans everywhere are connected and must work together. He later said, "In America, I didn't just get an education. I got a mission." In 1934, after nearly 9 years in the United States, Nnamdi Azikiwe returned to Africa, first to the Gold Coast, now Ghana, and then back to Nigeria. But he didn't come back the same way he left. He came back as a man with fire in his heart and freedom in his voice. He saw that Nigeria was still under the strong control of the British. The rich land, the businesses, and the government were still mostly in the hands of foreigners. His people, the Nigerian people, were still treated like they didn't matter. But Azikiwe had a plan. He knew that one of the strongest tools in the world was not a gun, but a newspaper. In 1937, he started the West African Pilot, a newspaper that would shake Nigeria to its core. This newspaper was different. It didn't praise the British. It didn't stay quiet when Nigerians were treated badly. Instead, it spoke boldly about freedom, justice, and African pride. It said things many people were afraid to say. It told Nigerians, you have a voice, use it, you have a land, own it, you have a right, demand it. People all over Nigeria, from market women to schoolboys, from farmers to teachers, began to read the West African Pilot, and they began to believe in themselves. Some called Azikiwe Zeke of Africa. Why? Because his words didn't only touch Nigerians, they touched people across the whole continent. He also supported young Nigerian writers and thinkers. He said, "The mind is the real power. If you can free the mind, the body will follow." Azikiwe used journalism not just to inform, but to inspire. By the early 1940s, Nnamdi Azikiwe had become a household name in Nigeria. Through his newspapers, his speeches, and his fearless voice, people began to see him as a leader, not just a writer. But Zeke knew that words alone could only go so far. If he wanted real change, he had to step into the world of politics. So in 1944, he co-founded the National Council of Nigeria and the Cameroons, NCNC. The NCNC was a political party created to fight for the rights of Nigerians, to push the British out and to prepare Nigeria for self-rule. Zeke didn't come with money or force. He came with vision, intelligence, and love for the people. He went from town to town, speaking in halls, markets, schools, and even under trees. He told people, "We are not second class. We are not slaves. We are Nigerians, and Nigeria must be free." He wasn't only speaking to Igbo people. He spoke to Yoruba, Hausa, Ijaw, Tiv, and all other tribes. He believed that unity was the key. "Tribalism is the tool they use to divide us," he said, "but together we are unstoppable." In 1954, he became the premier of the eastern region of Nigeria, one of the highest political positions at the time. But he didn't stop there. He continued to fight for Nigeria to become fully independent from British rule. He joined forces with other freedom fighters like Obafemi Awolowo, Ahmadu Bello, and Tafawa Balewa, even though they didn't always agree. What mattered to him most was not power, but freedom and unity. After many years of struggle, marches, speeches, prison threats, and newspaper battles, the dream began to take shape. Nigerians were rising. The British were watching. The cry for freedom had grown too loud to ignore. Finally, on October 1st, 1960, the dream came true. Nigeria became an independent nation. Crowds filled the streets, drums were beating, people danced with tears in their eyes. For the first time, the green and white flag was raised high, and not under the shadow of any other nation. Zeke was not the first prime minister. That role went to Sir Abubakar Tafawa Balewa. But Zeke became Nigeria's first governor-general, and later in 1963, when Nigeria became a republic, he became the first president. It was a proud moment for him, and for millions. From a boy in Zungeru to the president of a free Nigeria, this was more than a personal success. It was a message to all Africans: we can lead ourselves, we are capable, we are free. But Zeke's journey didn't end there. He kept preaching unity, even as political storms began to rise. Nigeria was a big country with many tribes, many religions, and many interests. Trouble started brewing between different regions, and just a few years later, in 1966, a military coup would change everything. Zeke was no longer in power. Nigeria would face its darkest days, war, bloodshed, and division. But even during this pain, Zeke never lost hope. After Nigeria's first military coup in 1966, everything changed. There was fear, there was tension. The country that had just found freedom now stood at the edge of falling apart. The Nigerian Civil War, also called the Biafran War, broke out in 1967. It was a painful time. Brother fought against brother, and thousands lost their lives. Nnamdi Azikiwe, being an Igbo man, was caught in the middle of the storm. At first he gave his support to Biafra because he wanted peace for his people. But when he saw the war was only bringing more death and hunger, he chose a different path. He began to speak again, not with guns but with words. He called for dialogue, for peace, for Nigeria to come back together. Some called him a traitor, others called him brave. But one thing was clear. Zik loved Nigeria, the whole of Nigeria. Even after the war ended in 1970, Zik stayed active. He continued to write, speak and teach the younger generation. He ran for president again in 1979 under the Nigerian People's Party, NPP, but he lost. Yet he never spoke with bitterness. He believed in democracy and respected the process. As he grew older, Zik became like a father figure to the nation. He was no longer in power, but when he spoke, people listened. He told young Nigerians, "The future of this country is in your hands. Do not let tribe or religion divide you, let truth and justice guide you." As the years passed, Nnamdi Azikiwe grew old, but his spirit remained strong. He stayed in his hometown, Onitsha, where he lived a quiet life, reading, writing, praying and receiving visitors. Many young people came to him, asking for advice. He would smile and say, "Lead with wisdom, not pride. Nigeria is still writing its story, and you are the ink." Though no longer in government, Zik was still respected across Nigeria and Africa. He had planted seeds of freedom that others were now harvesting. Then on May 11, 1996, the news came. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe had passed away. He was 91 years old. The nation paused. Leaders wept. The streets were silent in his honor. Nigerians, young and old, rich and poor, remembered the man who had dreamed for them when no one else did. He was buried in Onitsha with honors. His tomb became a symbol, a reminder of what one voice, one dream, and one heart can do. Zik is gone, but his legacy lives on. He taught us that true power is not in titles but in service, that the pen can change nations, that education can break chains, that unity is stronger than tribalism, that freedom is worth fighting for. In a time when Nigeria still faces division, corruption and struggles, Zik's voice still calls out from the past. "My children, do not fight each other. Build, learn, grow, dream again." Let us remember him not just as the first president, but as a man who loved Nigeria with all his heart. A man who believed in us, even when we didn't believe in ourselves. Zik of Africa, the boy from Zungeru, the father of Nigerian nationalism. May his dream live on, in you, in me, and in all of Nigeria, and in... Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps out the channel. And if you want to see more, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. Got thoughts or questions? Drop them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you very much. See you soon. And God will bless you.